The following video for 2023 is possible in part by Nichelle, the Michael the Rapper offline guy hater. Wet painters. More like dry poopers. Oh my god. This episode from SpongeBob SquarePants sucks. Let me give you a story about why this episode sucks. As the episode begins, SpongeBob and Patrick are tearing the Krusty Krab down and getting themselves hurt because Squidward tricked them into thinking it would attract customers. Mr. Krabs figures this out and sentences the two to do a super, special, secret assignment to paint the inside of his house. But Mr. Krabs tells them that the paint they are using is permanent. So if they get even the smallest drop on anything but the wall, he will cut off their rear ends and place them above his fireplace. As they go inside the house, SpongeBob sees that Mr. Krabs has so many possessions and tells Patrick he decides to move them first. Patrick says that there is no need to move the things because they are not paid to move them. Then they place a tarp, but it is just a small tarp, so they put down more tarps. SpongeBob takes out a huge brush but decides to use a tiny brush. SpongeBob takes it out and then, 6 hours later, carefully paints a drop onto the wall, which begins dropping. SpongeBob, in a panic that it may get onto an item, blows on it to change direction, and blow dries it off the wall, only to have created a giant paint bubble. Patrick blows another giant bubble shortly after, and the two merge. SpongeBob assures that the bubble cannot get any bigger, but Patrick proves it can by inflating the bubble, causing it to pop, covering Mr. Krabs' whole house in paint, without getting a drop on anything, except on Mr. Krabs' first dollar. SpongeBob tries wiping the stain off with his tie, but only ends up covering the entire dollar in paint. SpongeBob ends up fearing about what they did to his dollar, meaning that Mr. Krabs will cut their butts off and mount them on the wall just like what he said before they started painting his house. Then they try a couple more things to get it off, including washing it in a washing machine, spraying it, using a saw, beating it up with a club, and smashing it with a computer, but all fail. Then they decide to put another dollar on the wall. Patrick takes out a dollar from his wallet, but Patrick uses it to buy a chocolate bar from Mr. Krabs' candy machine instead. At that moment, Mr. Krabs comes home to find his house's lights turned off. He turns them on and sees that his house is tidy and bubbles are not seen. SpongeBob and Patrick are about to leave, but Mr. Krabs panics and they think Mr. Krabs finds out about the stained dollar. They apologize, but Mr. Krabs is just surprised that they dusted his knickknacks. He panics again, so SpongeBob and Patrick apologize again, but he is surprised about the painted floor molding. He panics again because he finds out that they messed up his dollar. One of his dolls in the doll collection is not upright. He says that they are free to go now, but then bumps into a pile of paintings jutting from the wall where his dollar usually went and throws away each one to find SpongeBob covering the dollar. Mr. Krabs soon takes SpongeBob out of the way to find his first dollar stained by paint and drawn on by crayon. Patrick thinks Mr. Krabs will buy it. It seems that Mr. Krabs is going to follow through with his threat and chop SpongeBob and Patrick's butts off. But then, Mr. Krabs licks the dollar, and the paint, including the crayon marking, comes off. The two are confused, and Mr. Krabs reveals the paint really comes off with saliva. SpongeBob concludes that Mr. Krabs lied about the paint being permanent so they would be extra careful, but Mr. Krabs said he tricked them just for fun, and laughs at his jest, causing SpongeBob and Patrick to storm out in disgust. Unfortunately, Mr. Krabs laughs so hard that he spits all over the place, causing all the paint to melt from the walls. The episode ends with him groaning in disappointment as he realizes this, and mutters to himself that he needs to learn how to say it, not spray it. And that's how the episode goes. If you haven't seen it, don't watch it, it's a waste of time. I hope this episode gets taken off the air soon. Do you know who likes this episode? Michael the Rapper offline guy, Alaska 2 the PTBF 2002 hater, and Edward the Animate Boy 5K9. On their commentaries on my videos, they use the clip where Patrick smashing the dollar with a computer. Well, they suck for using that clip. And do you know who hates this episode? Me. I wish I can never get paint all over a dollar. So fuck wet painters. End of rant.